there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be a theoretical TBR for the Reading Rush. The Reading Rush, of course, used to be BookTubeathon, and I wasn't really planning on doing it this year, but I just watched a couple of videos in which people took the absolute easiest way out, and I thought, well, that's an awesome idea. I'm realizing now that I didn't write down what the challenges are, so I'm going to try to go from memory. And jointly with that idea, I was watching a few people who were doing the middle grade magic readathon this week, and I thought that for fun, I would read a couple of kind of kids' books. And that goes so naturally with reading short books that I thought, okay. So on the middle grade theme, I read something recently that when adults, librarians, parents, people who are just reading kidlit for themselves, talk about middle grade fiction, they tend to not talk about the two book topics that are most popular with that age group, which is sports and horses. And sport books, horse books, very popular with the age group, but the adults who talk about it tend to be talking about contemporary fiction, fantasy, historical fiction, and not the sport and horse books. So I have here a book that was mine as a kid, and that's Marguerite Henry's King of the Wind, which is the story of the Godolphin Arabian, who was one of the 3 stallions that was used to found the thoroughbred breed. This was a horse that was originally from Morocco that was taken to England and used, as I said, as part of the foundation of this new breed, which, you know, if you were a horsey kid, is probably the kind of thing that you read too. If you weren't, you probably don't care about this. But Marguerite Henry, I think her most famous series are the Syncotech books, Misty, and I'm sure there were more of them. But anyway, I thought it would be fun to reread this as an adult. Also, it's purple, and that was one of the challenges, and the main character is a horse. And I believe one of the challenges is to read something with a non-human main character. So there we go. And because I was also talking about the sports and horses being the two things, I thought I'd also read a sports middle grade book. This is Jason Reynolds' Ghost, which is the first in his track series, which is about kids on a track team. I've read some of his poetry, and I know he's gotten some BookTube buzz because of a young adult novel that he wrote, which I think is a novel in verse, which I know drives Robert from Barter Hordes crazy, because I think his belief is that that's not a novel, it's just a long poem. But in any case, this is a novel, this is not written in verse. I think one of the other challenges was to read something that you meant to read last year. Technically, I think this is something I meant to read a couple of years ago. This is volume 5 of the New 52 Batwoman, which I enjoyed the first couple of volumes of, and then I read volume 6 and it was terrible. It was about vampires. I wished I had not bought it. And I realized recently I didn't actually read volume 5. I've read 1 through 4 and then 6, at which point they got rid of the New 52. So in any case, I haven't read this. I've been meaning to read it for a couple of years. So that's going to fulfill that prompt. I think there was a prompt to read somebody's first novel. And currently on hold for me at the library is Our Lady of the Nile, which is by this author, Scholastique Mukasonga, who is a Rwandan author who writes in French. This is Cockroaches, which is about the Rwandan genocide, because, you know, it's not a TBR of mine if there isn't an incredibly depressing book about man's inhumanity to man. So I will probably read this and then the other one if it comes in on time. So that will be my TBR. I feel like there were probably other challenges. I think one of the other challenges is to read something in the same place. And all of these are really short, so I'm sure I will. Alright, I think that's it. If you are taking part in the Reading Rush, or if you read any of these books, I'd love to hear what you thought of them. If you have revisited any books that you read as a kid, I'd love to hear about that. Because I know I've read books that I read as a teenager, and I've talked to a number of people who have specifically gone out and read their teenage favorites, and I've also seen a number of people talk about the picture books that they grew up with and that they then read to their kids or their nephews or etc. But I don't see a lot of the middle grade revisiting, aside from there was somebody who was doing a Babysitter's Club reread. But I'd love to hear about that. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.